Earlier, you mentioned that the submersible community has had an unblemished history for the last 50 years. Are you aware of when the last loss of life on a submersible was prior to OceanGate's
Yes,
accident?
I am. I'm very familiar with it. It was a sub that was actually ensnared in a net off the coast of Florida. It's one of the subs that belonged to Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institution.
Patrick Lahey, the CEO of Triton Submarines, addressed the hearing on the tragic implosion of OceanGate's Titan submersible. He spoke with conviction about the long-standing safety records of the submersible community, a record that had remained intact for half a century. But as Lahey recalls, there was one tragic exception that occurred off the coast of Florida in 1973, the last loss of life in a submersible before OceanGate's disaster. The accident Lahey referenced happened nearly 50 years ago, involving the Johnson Sea Link, a deep-sea submersible that became tragically ensnared in a fishing net. The story of that day is one of innovation, risk, and devastating loss, a reminder of just how dangerous the depths of the ocean can be, even for the most prepared explorers. In today's video, we're going to take a closer look at that incident, the lessons learned, and why the submersible community has remained cautious ever since. As a special thank you to our viewers, we're excited to announce a free giveaway of an exclusive 3D printed model of the OceanGate submersible. This detailed model is designed to float and dive in your pool, bringing a piece of deep-sea exploration right to your home. Don't miss your chance to win. Participate through the link in the description or secure your own model by purchasing it on our website. Dive into the world of OceanGate with us. The USS Fred T. Berry was a destroyer ship commissioned by the Navy in 1945, primarily used in anti-submarine warfare. After nearly 3 decades of service, it was decommissioned in 1972 due to outdated equipment. Instead of being scrapped, the Navy decided to sink the ship off the coast of Key West, Florida, creating an artificial reef about 330 feet below the surface. The goal was to promote marine life in the area, a decision that seemed like a positive environmental contribution at the time. In June 1973, just over a year after the ship was sunk, a team set out to explore this artificial reef. The dive team consisted of Jock Menzies, Robert Meek, Edwin Clayton Link, and Albert Dennison. They embarked on their mission aboard the Johnson Sea Link, a specially designed submersible engineered by Edwin Link, son of the famous inventor Edwin A. Link. The submersible was a follow-up to an earlier version, the Deep Diver, which had been deemed unsafe at extreme depths. The Johnson Sea Link was unique for its time, featuring a 5-foot acrylic bubble in the front pilot compartment that provided a panoramic view of the ocean. The rear compartment, known as the lockout diving section, allowed divers to exit the sub and work underwater while being compressed to the ambient pressure of the ocean. This submersible was the first of its kind to have this capability. The team in Key West was confident in the Sea Link and their experienced pilot, Jock Menzies. Menzies had piloted the sub around 100 times since its launch, and he was well prepared for this dive. Accompanying him in the forward compartment was Robert Meek, an ocean life scientist and pressure physiologist. In the rear diving compartment were Edwin Clayton Link, the son of the sub's designer, and Albert Smokey Stover, an experienced sub pilot himself. Together, they made up a highly skilled and knowledgeable team, ready for what was expected to be a routine dive. Their mission was simple: retrieve and check some fishing traps near the sunken Fred T. Berry. They only anticipated being underwater for about an hour, as the task was fairly straightforward. The men dressed casually, expecting nothing more than a brief routine dive. June 17, 1973, on a calm Sunday morning. At 9:45 a.m., the Sea Link was launched from its research ship, the Sea Diver, positioned above the sunken destroyer. Menzies piloted the sub through the murky waters of the Gulf Stream, but soon the team inside the vessel heard a harsh, rasping sound, metal rubbing against metal. Unexpectedly, a strong current from the east had pushed the sub off course. It became entangled in a cable and was trapped within a debris field near the sunken Fred T. Berry, 330 feet below the surface. Realizing they were stuck, the crew alerted the Sea Diver and informed them of the situation. The surface team immediately called the Coast Guard for assistance and instructed the men below to conserve oxygen by minimizing movement. The initial assessment was that the sub and its crew were not in immediate danger, so the Navy dispatched the USS Tringa, a submarine rescue ship stationed in Key West. Meanwhile, the Sea-Link team considered using the sub's lockout diving ability to allow one of the men in the rear diving compartment to exit and free the sub from the cable. However, this plan was quickly dismissed due to the significant risk of oxygen toxicity. With no other immediate options, they decided to wait for the Tringa's arrival. As time passed, the situation grew more concerning. The carbon dioxide levels in the pilot compartment began to rise as the CO2 scrubber failed. Thinking quickly, Menzies emptied the CO2 absorbent material from the scrubber into his shirt and held it in front of the circulating fans of the air conditioning unit, which temporarily helped lower the CO2 levels. However, they knew this was only a temporary fix. The crew estimated they had about 42 hours of breathable air in the pilot compartment and around 61 hours in the diving compartment. But the situation worsened. By the evening of June 17th, the internal temperature of the aluminum diving compartment had dropped significantly, reaching near the temperature of the surrounding ocean, approximately 45 degrees Fahrenheit. As the temperature dropped, the CO2 scrubber in the diving compartment became exhausted. By 10 p.m., the absorbent material was no longer effective, and the men in the rear compartment were forced to begin breathing from the air-supplied masks that were part of the sub's emergency systems. The Tringa arrived on the scene at 4:15 p.m. and made a 4-point mooring above the Sea-Link, preparing for rescue operations. Two hard-hat divers descended and observed that it was entangled in what looked like a large underwater junkyard. Unfortunately, they realized they could not help as the sub was too deeply trapped. Another attempt was made to free the vessel, but it was unsuccessful. At 1:12 a.m., Menzies reported to the surface team that Link and Stover were suffering from convulsions. Communications with the rear compartment ceased after this point, and it was unclear if the two men were still alive. A commercial salvage vessel, the AB Wood 2, later arrived on the scene carrying an underwater television camera mounted on a maneuverable platform. The camera allowed the rescue team to locate the Sea-Link and determine its exact position within the debris field. They eventually used a grappling hook to free the sub's propeller shrouds, allowing it to float to the surface. The Sea-Link surfaced at 4:53 p.m. on June 18th, and Menzies and Meek were immediately removed and transferred to the decompression chamber aboard the Tringa. Unfortunately, Link and Stover remained trapped in the rear compartment, which was pressurized to the depth of the ocean floor. Any attempt to remove them at this stage would have been fatal, assuming they were still alive. The sub was transferred to the Sea Diver for further medical and rescue attention. Inside the rear compartment, Link and Stover were visible through the small viewports, but neither showed any signs of life. Due to the immense pressure within the compartment, the hatch could not be opened until the pressure was gradually equalized. Hot water was sprayed over the compartment to raise the internal temperature, while helium oxygen was pumped in. It took several hours for the pressure to be bled off, but by the morning of June 19th, Dr. Youngblood aboard the Sea Diver confirmed that both men were dead. The official cause of death for Link and Stover was respiratory acidosis caused by carbon dioxide poisoning. The Johnson Sea-Link accident was thoroughly investigated by the United States Coast Guard. The investigation concluded that pilot error and the design of the sub's hull were the primary causes of the accident. Specifically, the modular construction of the sub's exterior made it more susceptible to becoming entangled in debris, which contributed to the tragedy. Following the accident, Edwin Link, devastated by the loss of his son, dedicated the next 2 years to designing an unmanned cable observation and rescue device named Cord, which could be used to free trapped submersibles in the future. A second Johnson Sea-Link submersible, nearly identical to the first, was designed and launched in 1975. Both the Johnson Sea-Link and Sea-Link 2 remained in operation for many years, participating in significant missions such as examining the wreck of the USS Monitor in 1977 and assisting in the recovery of wreckage from the Space Shuttle Challenger in 1986. The vessels were eventually retired in 2011 after decades of service. In memory of the lives lost, the Link Foundation established the Albert D. Stover and Edwin Clayton Link Fund to support scholarships and oceanography research. In 1978, the National Ocean Industries Association introduced the Safety in the Seas Award, partly in memory of Link and Stover, to encourage innovation and safety in marine exploration. After 50 years of relatively safe submersible exploration, the world saw an unblemished record when it came to deep-sea expeditions, until one man decided to break that streak. His name was Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate, who led the disastrous Titan submersible expedition in 2023. This tragic event, which claimed the lives of all 5 passengers, shook the entire deep-sea exploration community. As we continue to cover the full scope of the OceanGate disaster in our daily videos, we aim to highlight the dangers of cutting corners in the name of innovation and the importance of safety standards in underwater exploration. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into this story and bring you more insights into what went wrong and what we can learn from these events. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update. See you in the next video.